I had forgotten to record it, so we start now. His eyes full of tears, Madhusudana, Krishna spoke the following words. So here, Arjuna is described in these key words: Krupaya, compassion; Ashru, his eyes is full of tears; Vishidantam, lamentation. And these are all signs of ignorance of the real self. In fact, the scriptures define Shudra as one who laments for the gross body. That's why he is known as a Shudra, or one who laments unnecessarily. What is the analogy to understand this? Why is Krishna telling this to Arjuna? The analogy is, if you have compassion for the dress of a drowning man, is it of any use? The man is anyway drowning and you're trying to save the dress. That is exactly what is happening to Arjuna. He is caught in the ocean of nescience, ignorance, and he is trying to look at everything that is happening to his body and himself. So the learning in this verse is move away from ignorance to self-realization. Don't have compassion for the body, have compassion for the soul. And why is Arjuna addressing Krishna as Madhusudana? Because in his mind, what is Madhusudana? The definition and the name Krishna got Madhusudana was because he killed the demon Madhu. That's the day he started being called Madhusudana. So he's saying, like you killed that treacherous demon Madhu, kill the demon of ignorance in my mind. That's the reason why he's being addressed as Madhusudana. Let's go to the next verse. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kutastvakashmalam idam Visume Samupastitam Anaryajustam Aswargyam Akirtikaram Arjuna. So what is Krishna telling Arjuna? The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy. So there are three words which I have underlined. We will go through each one of them. And the significance of this verse is, this is the first time in Gita that Krishna speaks the complete shloka. In 1.14, if you remember, Krishna entered Bhagavad Gita because Sanjaya described him. And now, after the entire chapter is over, in the beginning of chapter 2, Krishna speaks the first verse. And it said, Sri Bhagavan Vacha. So if you look at the purport by Srila Prabhupada, he says we must understand the importance of Bhagavan. When Sanjaya speaks, it's Sanjaya Vacha. When Dhritarashtra speaks, it is Dhritarashtra Vacha. When Arjuna speaks, it is Arjuna Vacha. But when Krishna speaks, it's Bhagavan Vacha. Why is that? Because Bhagavan he is full of all opulences. It's like Balawan, the man of strength, immense strength. So Bhagavan means the man of all opulences. And Prabhupada gives us a couple of verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, where we can understand that the Lord has three features. He is Brahman to an impersonalist, a Brahmavadi. He is Paramatma for a Gnana Yogi. And he is Bhagavan to a devotee, to a Bhakta. So this is understood from the verse in Bhagavatam. Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yagnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabdyate. So this is the three features of the Lord we must be aware of, and that's what the purport is telling us. In Brahma Samhita, he also quotes this verse. It is said, Ishvara Parama Krishnaha Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. So he is the cause of all causes. In Bhagavatam, it continues. Ete chamsa kala pumsha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Hrudayanti Yuge Yuge. He is the cause of all causes. He is the creator. He is the maintainer. He is the destroyer. That is the essence of one word, Bhagavan. If we understand this clearly, we can understand what Krishna is giving this message to Arjuna. Anarya. Why is Krishna calling Arjuna Anarya? Because the definition of Anarya is they are a civilized class of men. they are aware of spiritual realization. They are not seeped in self-ignorance. So non-Aryan, Anarya, they do not know the aim of life. They do not know what is liberation. So Krishna is asking Arjuna, you are an Arya because you come from Kuru dynasty. Why are you behaving like an Anarya? You are perhaps choking up because of pressure, the pressure of war, facing with your own relatives. He says, Aswargyam, this will not lead you to higher destination in next life. Imagine coming from Krishna. He says it is akirtikaram. It will certainly not lead to better life in your next world. Let's go to the next verse. Klaibya masma gama partha naita tvayi upapadyate shudram hrudaya daurbalyam tyaktavotista parantapa. Parantapa is chastiser of enemies. O son of Pruta, do not yield to this degrading importance. It does not become you. Give up such weakness, petty weakness of heart, and arise, O chastiser of the enemy. So what is Krishna telling him? Klaibyam, do not be a coward. This is not a discretion based on ignorance, dharma, mercy. You can't show false magnanimity to Bhishma and Drona. Give up this meekness of mind and fight because you are Parantapa, chastiser of enemies. Let's go to the next verse. Katam Bhishmam Aham Sankhe Dronam Cha Madhusudanaha. Yet another name of Krishna, Madhusudanaha. Ishu Bhi Pratiyotsyami. Pujar Ahav Arisudanaha. So Madhusudana, Arisudana. Two names of Krishna in the same verse. Arisudana. How can I counterattack? Arjuna is asking Krishna. In battle, men like Bhishma and Drona, who are worthy of my worship. So this doubt continues in Arjuna's mind. He is still operating on the platform of Dharma Shastra. Remember in the last chapter we read, there is Artha Shastra and then there is Dharma Shastra. Going forward, we'll know something more. There is also Jnana Shastra. And in Dharma Shastra, which Arjuna is well versed with, he says, I must respect elders. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport also says, we must not even hurt elders by words, even though they behave harshly. That is the respect we should give to elders. Yes. So on the Dharma Shastra platform, what Arjuna is saying is right. And he continues his argument by saying, Arisudana. He's calling him, you are a killer of demons, Arisudana. Now, why is he asking him or calling him Arisudana is that, would you have killed your own grandfather, Ugrasena, like you're asking me to kill Bhishma? Would you have killed your Acharya, like my Acharya is Drona, your Acharya Sandipani Muni? Will you kill him? That's the reason why he's calling Krishna as Arisudana. I know you are a killer of demons, but would you kill your own relatives? But Arjuna missed a point. When Krishna operates, he operates on absolute platform. He is not just killer of people. That is, he does not have any mercy, compassion for his own relatives. And Arjuna seems to forget that Krishna killed Kamsa, his own maternal uncle, in the beginning to establish dharma. So what Krishna is saying, he is following that. So Arjuna misses that point in this verse. Let's look at the next verse. 2.5. Guru ahatva hi mahanubhavan shreyo bhoktum bhaikshyam apihaloke hatvarta kamamstu gurun ihaiva bhunjiya bhogan rudira pradiktan. What is the translation? Better to live by begging, bhaikyam, than to kill such great souls. So Arjuna continues on his platform of Dharma Shastra. He says, I don't want this victory. I don't want this kingdom. As long as I'm not going to kill my own relatives, I'm happy not to fight this war, go back to the forest and live by begging. What does this show of Arjuna? It shows his detachment. He's not attached to his kingdom. He's not attached to being a Kshatriya. He says, oh, it's fine. As long as I'm not able to, I'm able to satisfy my own law of justice, I'm fine. But then in Dharma Shastra, it is very clearly said, which I think Arjuna is missing, a teacher also can be admonished. A teacher also can be punished. Why? If he engages in abominable action. Now, what is abominable in Drona or Bhishma is they are supporting Duryodhana blindly because they were part of his kingdom. Duryodhana was their king, and they wanted to conduct their duty. So they had a financial obligation, emotional attachment in the name of king and kingdom. But Dharma Shastra does not recognize that. You are, as a Brahmana, first supposed to support Dharma. Where are they doing it? They're not doing it. That's the reason why Krishna is trying to remind Arjuna, don't stick to this line of argument. Arjuna doesn't stop, doesn't pause. He calls them Mahanubhavan. Accept it. They are. But what is important to note is, as a Kshatriya, are you supposed to take sannyasa? Are you supposed to go and beg? That is not your prime duty. And that is what you should be aware of. Let's move to the next verse. Na cha itad vidma kataran no gariyo. Yadva jayema yadiva na jayeyu. Yan eva hatva na jijivisamas. Te avasthita pramukhe dhrutarashtraha. Now, this is the last reason of Arjuna not to fight. Indecision. You remember Sesti, compassion, lack of enjoyment, fear of sinful reaction, destruction of family values, and I is indecision. So now we are coming to this fifth reason of Arjuna, why he doesn't want to fight. And what are those reasons? There are four reasons, he says. Confused Arjuna. Should I fight and risk violence? This is his first question. That's why he is indecisive. Should I refrain and live by begging? I have an option. Why are you forcing me to fight? Of course, the positive thing is he's so detached. Is it so easy for a king to go and say, I will start living by begging? It's not easy. But Arjuna was a soft-hearted, compassionate, pure devotee. So he's showing that detachment. At least he's thinking on those lines. Victory is anyway not certain. So in his mind, he's not sure that he's going to win this war. So he says, why should I fight? Victory is also defeat because we can't live happily after killing our relatives. So these are the four reasons that Arjuna tells Krishna why he is indecisive. And slowly and steadily, Krishna tries to take away this illusion of Arjuna and bring him to a mood to say that I will fight. And let's see how Krishna does it. This is the most important verse of second chapter and Gita as such. Karpanya doshopahata swabhava prachami tvam dharma samudasetaha yasreyasya nishchitam bruhi tanme shishyaste hamsadi mam tvam prapannam. So in this verse, Arjuna is moving away from being a friend of Krishna to becoming his disciple. Let's see what's the translation. Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. Karpanya doshopahata. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple, Shishyasteham Sadi, and the soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. Aham Sadi Mam Tvam Prapannam. So here, what is the most important thing is, the analogy is, first is, let's see the focus. The focus in the purport by Srila Prabhupada is on this word karpanya. He says, overcome by miserly weakness. So Krupana and Brahmana, these two concepts are there as learning for us in the purport. And what is the analogy Prabhupada is giving us? He says, material perplexity and forest fire. They both happen without desire and without being set by anyone. Does anyone go and light a fire for a forest? No, it happens. Does anyone have to create a problem in life? No, it happens on its own, uncalled. Bin bulaye mehman. In Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the definition of miser is given. It says, miser is a person who does not understand the value of human life. Human life is the only chance available for us to rectify our mistakes and find solutions to life. It's not about getting bewildered and worried when problems present themselves. Now, if you do not utilize your human form of life, then you become a krupana. And what is the problem of this human form of life? We take this illusion and believe it is real and it is going to last forever. And we are so attached to the family life, it's like a skin disease. The whole life is spent in looking after the children, looking after parents. We are after money making, and we feel we can create protection for our family. The biggest fallacy. Second, we also have an expectation. Our children will grow up, and it is our family who will look after us in the stage when we become old, and the family can save me. But actually, it's a fallacy. Most of us, when we reach our old age, when we see back on life, we realize none of this has come true. Or if it has come true, it is to some extent. There are twists and turns, and we are full of miseries. And why is miserly Kripana not a great place to be in? Because we are just like a cat and dog. We come into this world, we live the life fully busy, never pausing for a minute to listen to, read, and understand what is the purpose of life. And we just pass away like a cat and dog without understanding self-realization. What Krishna is saying is definition of Brahmana. He says, be intelligent, utilize the human form, solve the problems of life, move away from ignorance, come to self-realization. And in this verse, Arjuna has moved from Kripana to a Brahmana because he is saying, I surrender. Bhakti starts with surrender. You cannot say, I love God. That's not enough. You should say, I belong to God. You should surrender to God. Let's look at the next verse. Nahi prapashyami mama apa anu adyad yachokam uchosanam indriyanam avapya bhumav asapatnam riddham rajyam suranam api chadipatyam. So what is Arjuna saying in this? Nahi prapashyami. Anything material won't solve my problems. What is the translation? I can find no means to drive away this grief, which is drying up my senses. I will not be able to dispel it, even if I win this prosperous, unrivaled kingdom on earth with sovereignty like demigods in heaven. And Prabhupada in the purport says, he is describing to us what Arjuna is going through. And we also, I can understand this. Academic knowledge, scholarship, high position are all useless in solving the problems of life. We can help ourselves by taking shelter of spirituality, read spiritual scriptures, and get the wisdom from them. And in the purport, he also describes who can be a guru. He says, choose a guru. A simple criteria is he should be in the parampara. He should be in the disciplic succession. Don't go to someone who comes and just says that I am guru. No, it is not the case. It has to be through parampara. And only then you will find solutions to the problems of today. Now, Corona is a hot topic. Do you think tomorrow will be any better? If Corona goes, something else will come. We feel money is important and we work very hard. Now in Japan, the statistics says, and Japan is a developed market, people are very well off economically. Overwork kills more than 1,000 people every year. So money is also not the solution. And to explain the situation that we all find ourselves, there's a very nice poem. This is humorous. Enjoy the humor. परेशान थी पप्पू की वाइफ, परेशान थी पप्पू की वाइफ, नॉन हैपनिंग थी जो उसकी लाइफ। पप्पू को ना मिलता था आराम, ऑफिस में काम करता करता काम ही काम। पप्पू के बॉस भी थे बड़े कूल, प्रमोशन को हर बार भूल जाते थे, पर भूलते नहीं थे वो डेडलाइन, काम तो करवाते थे रोज टिल 9। पप्पू भी बनना चाहता था द बेस्ट, इसलिए तो वो नहीं करता था द रेस्ट। दिन रात करता था वो बॉस की गुलामी, अप्रेजल की उम्मीद में देता था सलामी। दिन गुजरे और गुजरे फिर साल, बुरा होता गया पप्पू का हाल। पप्पू को अब कुछ याद न रहता था, गलती से बीवी को बहन जी कहता था। आखिर एक दिन पप्पू को समझ आया और छोड़ दिया उसने अप्रेजल की मोह माया। बॉस से बोला, तुम क्यों सताते हो, अप्रेजल के लड्डू से बुद्धू बनाते हो, प्रमोशन दो वरना चला जाऊंगा, अप्रेजल देने पर भी वापस नहीं आऊंगा। बॉस हंस के बोला, नहीं कोई बात, अभी और भी पप्पूस है मेरे पास, ये दुनिया पप्पुओं से भरी है, सबको बस आगे बढ़ने की पड़ी है। तुम ना करोगे तो किसी किसी और से कराऊंगा, तुम्हारी तरह एक और पप्पू बनाऊंगा। So this is the story of life, and we all go through this. I thought instead of explaining the miseries of life, this is brought out very humorously in this poem. So to curb lamentation, move towards self-realization. 2.9. Sanjaya Uvacha Evam Uktva Hurshikesham Gudakesha Parantapaha Na Yotsa iti Govindam Uktva Tusnim Babuaha. Arjuna fell silent. Sanjaya said, having spoken thus, Arjuna, O Parantapa, chastiser of enemies, told Krishna, Govinda, I shall not fight, and fell silent. So this is where we are in this second chapter now. Arjuna is again refusing to fight. Of course, here Arjuna has surrendered to Lord Krishna. Oh, sorry. Move to the next slide. Yes. Now, at this stage again, Dhritarashtra is feeling happy, slightly happy. Oh, maybe even though Sanjaya says Krishna is going to inspire Arjuna to fight, Arjuna is saying, I'm surrendering to you, but he's still saying, I'm not going to fight. And maybe my children Duryodhana will get the kingdom. But Sanjaya disappointed him again, speaking this verse, 2.10. Tam uvacha Hrishikesha prahasan iva bharata senayor ubhayor madhye visidantam idam vacha. What did Krishna say? O descendant of Bharata, at that time Krishna, smiling, Parahasam Eva Bharata, in the midst of both the armies, Senayor Ubhayor Madhye, spoke the following words to the grief-stricken Arjuna. And what are those words? We will see from 2.11 to 2.30. That is the most important learning message for us. That is Atmagyan. Let's start with the 11th verse. Now, here we can understand the levels of Shastra, the ladder of Shastra, Artha Shastra, Dharma Shastra, and Gnana Shastra. And this is what we're going to learn. 2.11. So Krishna states, don't lament unnecessarily. And in terms of hierarchy, Gnana Yoga is higher than Dharma Shastra, and Dharma Shastra is higher than Artha Shastra. What is the verse, 11th verse? Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Asosyan Anmasochastvam Pragnavadhamscha Bhashase Gatasun Agatasumscha Nanusoshanti Panditaha. What is the translation? The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, Pragnavadhamscha Bhashase, you are mourning for Can I request all to be on mute, please? You are mourning for that which is not worthy of grief. Can I request you all to be on mute, please? Thank
You
you.
can do yourself, Guruji. I think you better you do yourself.
Okay, where do I do that?
wrong.
Uh, can anyone guide me? Participants mein hoga kya? Mute all. Yeah, let me mute. So all are on mute. Let me start again reading the translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament not neither for the living nor for the dead. So the Atma Gyan starts from this. So Krishna is saying, Arjuna, you look to be Pragnavadamsha, wise, but then I think you are not aware of Gnana Shastra. And what is the Gnana Shastra is do not lament for destruction of gross body. The body that we have, that we see is gross body. It is inevitably destroyed. Along with the body, inside the body, we have subtle body. And that consists of three things: mind, intelligence, and false ego. That is also indestructible because the subtle body covers the soul. And it does not die when the body dies. And the soul, since it is eternal. So this is Atma Gyan. If we realize this, that I am not Sham, the body. Now, when I say this, maybe it is surprising, perplexing. Why is Sham saying I'm not the body? Or why is Krishna saying you are not the body? The question to ask is, when I leave this body in death, the body is still lying in front of us. Then who died? So who am I? That is the question of philosophy. And the answer is there in this verse. So Krishna is saying, Asosyan anvasochas tvam. The gross body will die, subtle body is indestructible, and the gross body changes. And yes, the body changes, but the soul doesn't change. It is eternal. And he says, who is a learned man? A real learned man is one who knows this truth. The science of body, soul, and who is the controller of the two. That is Atma Gyan. And once you have Atma Gyan, then you will not lament either for the living or for the dead. So this is the starting of Atma Gyan. Very interesting section. You can spend your whole lifetime enjoying the learning from this. If we are able to understand this, realize each one of these words, then we are in heaven. We have no stress, we have no distress, because Krishna is saying, move away from the dualities. Let's see and let's favor the beauty. So the verse 12, it says, Natva evaham jatu nasham, natvam neme janadipaha, na chaiva na bhavishyama, sarve vayam ataparam. What is it saying? Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. What a powerful message. Krishna is saying, I am eternal, you are eternal, all the people assembled on this battlefield are eternal. And what are you lamenting for? Who is dying? So this is very clearly establishing the concept of all individuals exist eternally. Nobody dies. It is just the body that dies. And the same thing is there in Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam eko bahunam yo vidadhati kaman. So what is that? This verse is also saying Krishna is the chief eternal among all. He is the creator, maintainer, destroyer. And he is living in each one of us as Paramatma. And we have to look inwards. We have to look internally to realize his presence. And we are getting body after body as a reward for our pious and non-pious deeds in this world. So this is the learning. We are eternal. Everyone, in every living being in this world is eternal. So what are you lamenting for? Why is death such a bad word for you? Why are you feeling guilty that I'm going to kill Bhishma and Drona? This is the essence of this verse. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada also says this verse strongly refutes the impersonalist theory. What is the impersonalist theory? Just for our knowledge, the impersonalists believe that all souls, as the body dies, they go and merge into the Brahman. But then Krishna here says, Na tvam eva ham jatu nasham. Never was there a time when I did not exist. So Krishna is independent, we are independent. So this does come in the way of the impersonalist theory. But our focus is to understand the essence of Atmagyan and not get into a conversation of impersonalist versus personalist. Let's look at the next verse. Now, even though Krishna has given such profound knowledge statement, Arjuna can argue, I know soul maybe is eternal, since you are saying so, but body is related to the soul, because I can see Sham, I can see Ramesh only by the body. I don't know how the soul looks. And the body is the source of and object of affection. It's not the soul. I'm not in love with the soul. I'm in love with the body. And our relatives are also connected to that body. And that's why when the body perish, there will be lamentation. Oh, Krishna, that is why I'm lamenting. Now let's see what Krishna has to say. Another powerful verse. He says, Tehino asmin yata dehe kaumaram yaumanam jara tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuyati. What is the translation? As the embodied soul, Dehino, continuously, that is one who is, the soul is in the body. That is called embodied soul. Continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age. The soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. What a revelation, the treasure of knowledge is coming forth in this world. He says, what you see as body, has that not changed? When we were born, we were a child. We had to be carried around by our parents. Then we became Kaumaram, youth, a boyhood, Yaunam, youth, and then Jara. So what body are you talking about? Which body is the truth? The child, the youth, the boy, or the old age? You decide where the truth is. So body is continuously changing. When you became a youth, you rejoiced. And now when we move away from middle age and step into old age, you start regretting. Is it fair? Is this intelligence? This is inevitable. The body has to age. So what is the point in a lamentation? Now, how do you stop lamenting? He also gives you a solution. He says, Dhiras tatrana muhyati. Be patient, be a dhira. Do not assume just because you are killing Bhishma and Drona, they are going to die. No, the body dies, the soul continues to live. So this is establishing the eternality of personality. Let's look at the next words. Arjuna might still argue, but still I am attached to their current bodies and I lament due to separation from them. Thus my senses and mind are burning up. So now Arjuna is telling Krishna, he's confessing actually. He says, oh Krishna, whatever you say, I understand, but you please understand from where I am coming from. My senses and mind are burning up because of the attachment and separation to this body. How do I overcome that? Now Krishna says, tolerate the temporary dualities. The biggest message in Gita. Don't grieve, tolerate. Matra sparshastu kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkada agama apayino anityas tam titikshasva bharata. What is the translation? O son of Kunti, The non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O Sion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. What a revelation again. We all know in this world that in a year there are seasons. You have summer, you have winter. And we have, with thanks to development of science, technology, quite well adjusted to managing the physical discomfort that can happen in these change of seasons. We know they are transient. In winter, just because it is cold, this is explained in the purport, do we stay up taking bath? There are people who take cold water bath. In summer, our mothers, wives are in the kitchen cooking delicious food. Is it comfortable for them? No. Taking bath in winter, cooking in summer are uncomfortable. But we are able to manage. How? In winter, you wear warm clothes. In summer, you have AC, fan. So we are able to manage this. What is Matra Sparshassu? It's like, the sense is attracted by the sensed object. What is that? Now, let's say I keep a rasgulla in front of us. What happens? The first thing is that mouth starts watering because the taste buds are activated. The taste bud says, I must eat the rasgulla. So that is matra sparshas to kaunteya. When the senses come in contact with the sense objects, there is desire. Sukha dukkada. So at the physical level, we can tolerate the seasons. Krishna is also giving a further philosophy. He says sukha dukkada. Now, where is sukha and dukkha residing? They are residing in the mind and intelligence. So it is not enough to tolerate the physical discomfort in the change of seasons, which is transient, but we also should try to learn the art and science of tolerance at the mind and intelligence level. So tam titikshastra bharata is the most important lesson, most important learning for all of us. And there are two names given to Arjuna here. He is also called Kaunteya, he is called Bharata. Why? Deep philosophical meaning. Kaunteya is his son of Kunti. She was the greatest pure devotee of Krishna. Bharata is that he comes from the famous Kuru dynasty. So he's known as Bharata. Let's look at the next verse. Equanimity is the eligibility for liberation. So now Krishna is coming to what happens once you start learning tolerance. You start getting into the stage of equanimity, sthita prajna. Let's read the verse. Yam hi na vyathayanti yate purusham purushar sabha samadukka sukham dhiram so amrutavaya kalpate. Amrutavaya is heaven. What's the translation? O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. Look at this strong message from physical discomfort management of seasons which are transient. He says, learn to do the same thing for dukkha and sukha. Don't rejoice when you have joy. Don't grieve when you have distress. Be a dhira. That's the message of this. Now, Purusha. Why is Arjuna being called Purusha? It is said that the bird is a Purusha is one who is not subject to sorrow. So we all should try to be a Purusha in our lives. Be a Samadukha Dhiram. The word Pura in Purusha signifies full in noble attributes, full in wisdom. So knowledge is not sufficient. You have to realize the knowledge. That is why Krishna is calling Arjuna as Purusha Sabha, best among men. Don't grieve. Be dhira. Be patient. Be steady. When you have relinquished the concept of physical body, attachment to the body, then you are getting into the world of spirituality. Let's look at the next verse. Nasato vidyate bhavo. It's a very musical verse. Nabhavo vidyate sataha. Ubhayor api drushto antas Tva anayos tattva darshibihi. What is the translation? Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent nasato, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. So this is the understanding and the learning here is the Jivatma does not have a relationship with the subtle or gross bodies, the mind, intelligence, and ego, and it does not know what is lamentation and bewilderment. So if you operate at the level of the body, you're going to suffer. You're going to be distressed. You're going to be bewildered. If you step up and come into the level of spirituality, the seers of the truth, tattva darshibihi, then you will realize that nasato vidyate bhavo, no permanent existence for the material body. And nabhayo nabhavo vidyate sataha, no change for the eternal soul. So conclusion is material body does not last and spiritual body does not get destroyed. Soul is eternal, body is temporary. Let's look at the next verse. You just see how Krishna is steadily and gradually reinforcing the message to Arjuna. Don't lament. And he's giving such a treasure house of knowledge. The soul is indestructible, avinashi. The verse reads as avinashi tu tadvidhi yena sarvam idam tatam. Important. Yena sarvam idam tatam. Vinasham avyayasya na kaschid kartum arhati. What is the translation? That which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. So here, Krishna is again describing the nature, symptom of the soul. How do we understand the soul? We all talk about the soul, but can anyone explain to me what is soul? So Krishna is saying, Yena sarvam idam tatam. Please see your body. If I pinch myself here, any part of the body, what do I feel? I feel pain. If I, let us say, tickle myself, any part of the body, I feel pleasure. That is consciousness. And what is the difference between having consciousness, having no consciousness? So at death, what happens? The consciousness is lost. The consciousness is the consciousness leaves the body. The soul leaves the body. So that is how you understand the soul. And after you know that this is the symptom of the soul, please be aware that it is indestructible. Now, in Shvetashvatara Upanishad, a very interesting statistics is there for all the statistically interested people in this group. The size of the soul is defined, and scriptures has so much of in-depth science, it is unimaginable. You can relish it all your life. The definition of the soul goes like this: Balagra sata bhagasya shatada kalpitasya cha bhago jiva vijineyaha sa anantyaya kalpate. So what is the size of the soul? You will all be surprised. It is 1/10,000. If you divide the tip of the hair, tip of one hair, you know the size of hair is in microns. And if you divide that by 10,000, you will get the size of the soul. So Krishna is saying, why are you worried about death? Why are you lamenting? This soul, which is so small, atomic in size, is indestructible. It is avinashi. And how is the soul placed in the body? The same Upanishad describes. It is floating in 5 airs: prana, apana, vyana, samana, udhana. So avyayasya means indestructible. So why are you grieving? Let's look at the next verse. Now he's giving you a description of material body versus spirit soul. So you start taking and comparing and connecting the two. Antavanta ime deha nitya shokta sharirinaha anasino aprameyasya tasmad yudiyasva bharata. Now this is an instruction. He says, you must fight. Yudiyasva. The material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharata. Antavanta ime deha. What is it? He says the body by nature is destructible. The question is either it dies today or it dies after 100 years. And the soul present in the body does not die. And you cannot save the body. Why are you worrying? What is the cause of lamentation? So he's saying soul is aprameyasya. You see this word here. Anasina. Aprameyasa means inconceivable. Anasina means never can be destroyed. And sharirinaha is now, this is another learning for us. He says, I am dwelling within you as Paramatma. So why are you not realizing this fact that the soul, the Atma, cannot die? So please fight. Do not sacrifice dharma, the cause of religion, for material bodily considerations. What is important here is that Krishna is saying all of us come into this world with a death sentence. It is just that we don't know when we are going to die. Except for that uncertainty, there is only one truth in life. Every person who is born is going to die. So then why are you repenting? Let's look at next verse. The soul doesn't get killed, doesn't kill or get killed. What is the verse? E nam veti hantaram yaschai nam manyate hatam ubhautau na vijani to nayam hanti na hanyate. Translation is, neither he who thinks the living entity, the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge. For the self slays not, nor is slain. Very easy to understand this verse. He says, the soul is too small to be killed. And so the soul you cannot kill, the body you cannot save. So what is the need for you to grieve? That's the, and if you are intelligent, please understand this fact. So if Arjuna says, I am killing Bhishma, I am killing Drona, that itself is illusion. You are not killing Bhishma, you are not killing Drona, because the soul is eternal. The body of Bhishma and Drona will anyway die, whether you kill or you don't kill. So what is the reason for lamentation? That's the message of this verse. Now, you maybe understand, no, what's the learning? The learning is, yes, we are all immortal, eternal souls. But can we kill just on whims and fancies? Now, the biggest learning we can think of is we must reflect. If the soul is immortal, does it encourage animal slaughter? Because we are putting another living being into unnecessary suffering. Is there any religious benefit? Is it as per dharma? That is the question we should reflect on. So yes, the body is perishable, but can we kill without reason? You have to have either the law of the land or to uphold dharma, then you can kill, not otherwise. Now, then you may stand up and ask, why is Arjuna authorized to kill? Then that is also not right. But we must be aware that this war happened after all efforts of peace failed. Krishna goes to Duryodhana and says, give me 5 villages. Forget about the kingdom. Duryodhana refuses. Now that is adharma. So if you have to establish dharma, adharma has to be killed. So there is no sin, there is no lamentation for you, O Arjuna. That is the essence of this verse. Another beautiful verse. Na jayate mruyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuya ajo nitya shaswato ayam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. It is so interesting to read, for the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. So in this verse, if you see Ajaha, it is means unborn. Nitya means eternal. Shashwato means permanent. Purana means ancient. So the body is subject to change. The body goes through, you have 6 stages which Prabhupada defines in the purport. You have birth, you have growth, you have youth, you reproduce children, then you get into middle age, old age, and death. But soul does not have any of these changes. It is kutastha. It is steady. It does not go any of this change. Now you may be wondering, how do I understand this? Now I can tickle your imagination. See, the spirit in a man is the same, whether it is you are an young man or an old man. The famous example is if you see a beautiful woman walking by, irrespective of your age, you tend to pause and look. Why? Because the spirit in you is still the same as it was when you are an young person. So this is how we should understand. And then the learning here is that in Katha Upanishad, the soul is defined as Anu. So we are all Anus. Anu is infinitesimal. We are part of the Lord. So Arjuna, Bhishma, Drona, we are all Anu. Krishna is infinite. So we are part and parcel of him, and Arjuna is requesting for enlightenment from this supreme soul. That is Krishna. Let's go to the next verse. So the message, the learning in this is soul never dies. So Krishna is reinforcing this message again and again. If you go forward, you will further see how strongly Krishna is giving this message. The next verse. Veda vinashinam nityam ya enam ajam avyayam. Katam sta purusha bharata kam ghatayati hantikam. Oh. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, Shyam, we can.
Please continue.
Okay, I don't know why I am getting a message which is...
No,
Maybe
no problem.
maybe time got over or something, Shyam.
Okay, actually, one second. Okay, let me cancel this. Yeah, let's continue. O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? So what Krishna is saying, if you say, I am Arjuna is killing Bhishma and Drona, that is not true, because you cannot kill. The soul is eternal and indestructible. So what is that you are trying to lament for? What is that you are trying to grieve? It is in fact, you should be happy that Bhishma and Drona are old, and they, if you, let us say in this war, you kill them, they will leave this body and they will get a fresh body through the process of reincarnation. So what is there to grieve? That's the essence of this verse. No one can kill the soul. The next verse is even more interesting. It says, changing bodies is similar to changing clothes. So why are you lamenting? Death is just a change of clothes. That is the example that Krishna is giving us. Vasamsi jirnani yata vihaya navani gruhanati naro aparani tata sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. What a verse. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. What are you grieving for? He says our body for the soul is just like a change of cloth. When I change my cloth, if let's say I'm going out to office, I'm in formals, and I come back home, I change into informals. By doing that, is there any reason for you to grieve? It's just as simple as that. Why are you grieving? Of course, Arjuna did not know. That was why he was grieving. All of us don't know. And now we are going through this verse. So we should now start realizing Gita in our life, saying that I will not grieve unnecessarily. Death is unavoidable, permanent reality. So when we face death, we should not grieve, we should not lament. And of course, it is easy to say, but as Krishna said, Tam titiksha bharata, slowly mature. Only then you will come to that say, Na tvanuyas tattvadarshibhi. That is knowledge. We should reach that stage. The next three verses are describing the eternality of soul by giving graphic examples that any known weapon to mankind cannot kill the soul. Krishna wants to give this message in such strong flavor to Arjuna that there should be no confusion. In fact, after seeing this 20 verse, we can also understand and realize that marketing, advertising is built on this philosophy. Reinforce the message again and again. That's why you see an ad coming so frequently. Only then the message gets reinforced. Let's look at this. You will enjoy each and every line of these three verses. Nainam chindanti shastrani. What is Krishna saying? He says the soul cannot be cut by weapons. Any weapon, you name it, you cannot destroy the soul. Nainam dahati pavakaha. Cannot be burned by fire weapon. Now here, we should step back to see that we are all aware of gun, missile, nuclear warhead, etc., bomb. In the past, in our scriptures, there are other weapons also defined, which can be exercised by chanting a mantra. We are unfortunately in Kali Yuga, and we don't know that science, but there is enough evidence in the scriptures that what Krishna is referring to is that when you say cannot be burnt by fire, it is Agni Astra. So even by Agni Astra, you cannot kill the soul. Na chainam kledayanti apo. You cannot use Varuna Astra, that is a weapon of water, to kill the soul. So fire is over, water is over, weapons are over. Na soshayati marudha. It cannot be withered by the wind. So if you say Vayu Astra, even that will not be able to kill the soul. Achedyu ayam, adayo ayam. Unbreakable, cannot be burnt. Akledyu soshya evacha. Insoluble, cannot be dried. Nitya sarva gathastanur. Everlasting, everywhere, unchangeable. And we have gone through this. It is everywhere. Can you say that, oh, the soul is not in my finger? Can you say that my soul is not in my leg? Because I explained to you, if I pinch myself, the pain is equal in every part of the body. So it is not only everlasting, it is everywhere. And you cannot change it. Achalo ayam sanatanaha. Immovable and eternally the same. 25th verse. Avyakto ayam achintyo ayam. Imperceptible and inconceivable. We just read, it is 1/10,000, the tip of the hair. There is no microscope invented either now or forever which can see a soul, because soul is not material. Any microscope can only see material things, but not spiritual things. Avikaryo ayam uchyate, immutable without changes. The soul doesn't go through changes like a body does. Tasmad evam vidit vainam, knowing it to be thus, nanu sochitam arhasi. You should not grieve for the body. In fact, the biggest learning for us after we finish this class is you should remember these three words. Nanu sochitam arhasi. Never lament in life. That is how we can get stress in our lives from the miseries. Let's look at the next. Now, Krishna has suddenly changed gears. And in the 26th verse, he tells, I have talked to you about Atmagyan, which is based on Vedic scriptures. Now, I also present another viewpoint, which is the material vision, which rejects the existence of soul. Krishna is saying, either you follow the material vision or you follow the spiritual vision. Even then, you have no reason to grieve. What is this verse? It says, Atacha inam nityajatam nityam va manishye mrutam manyasye mutam tathapi tvam mahabhavo. There's a sarcasm in this. Na inam sochitam arhasi. You just see, last verse, same. Na tvam sochitam arhasi. Na inam sochitam arhasi. So even if you think that the soul is always born and dies, you still have no reason to lament, O mighty armed Arjuna, Mahabhavu. So there are philosophers who differ from the Vedas. So at the time of Krishna also they existed. They were called the Lokayatikas and Vaibhashikas. And what was their philosophy? It was completely contrary to Vedic scriptures, whatever we study. They say the soul dies along with the body. In fact, they don't define the soul. They say it's a material combination that happens, and by magic, when you put all the elements together, this Jiva is born, the living entity is born. Our science is also something close to that. It's called anthropology. None of the material scientists believe in the concept of soul. They just argue for argument's sake that, oh, there is an interaction which happens in the mother's womb, put all the chemicals together, and you have a living entity. But what is the point to reflect is, can any scientist in any part of the world create an ant? For example, I'm not asking you to create an elephant, create an ant. It is not possible. That shows that science has a long way to go. Now, the question is, why is Krishna asking Arjuna to look at this part of philosophy? Because he says, either you are an Aryan, you are a self-realized person and understand what I have told you, stop lamenting. Or if you belong to the category of these philosophers who do not believe in the existence of soul, even then you have nothing to grieve. Because what dies when you kill Bhishma and Drona, it is just a small mass of chemicals. What is the loss? And you can continue living the way you are. Kill, do your duty. Next verse. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrutyur dhruvam janma mrutasya cha tasmad aparyarte na tvam sochitam arhasi. Again the verse, na tvam sochitam arhasi. Krishna is like hammering it onto Arjuna. Don't lament, don't grieve. One who has taken his birth, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrutyur, is sure to die. And after death, one is sure to take birth again. Dhruvam janma after death. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament, O mighty armed Arjuna. So what is the essence? What is the learning? Soul does not die. Body cannot be saved. So why are you grieving? Let's look at, so this is the inevitable birth and death cycle. We all are aware of this. What is born has to die. So why are you grieving? 28th verse. Avyaktadini bhutani vyaktamadhyani bharata avyakta nidanhani eva tatra ka paridevana. What is the translation? All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation? A very simple example to explain this. Let's say you have a piece of land, which is just a land. Then we decide we are going to build a skyscraper there. So we put the best design, you create the construction drawings and you put all the elements, cement, concrete, steel, and build the skyscraper. So how do you understand this? Avyaktadhani bhutani. This skyscraper did not exist before you created it. So it was unmanifest, and now you put effort, you created it, it became manifested as skyscraper. And after 50 years or so, the skyscraper loses its utility value. Either it collapses or you destroy it, and it becomes unmanifest again. This is the cycle. So why are you grieving? Just understand this. Now, this is another amazing verse. Ascharyavat pashyati kaschid inam, ascharyavat vadati tataiva cha anya, ascharyavat cha inam anya shrunoti, shrutvapi inam vedana chaiva kaschid. What is this explanation? You will enjoy this verse. Some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. So pashyati is to see, vadati is to speak of, describe, shrunoti is to hear. So what is Krishna is saying is that if you are a man of intelligence, I am amazed to see your response to this. You know what the soul is. I have explained it to you. Some people do see the soul as amazing because they say such a small atomic particle, 1/10,000 the size of a human hair, tip of the human hair, can animate a whale, which weighs a few hundred tons, an elephant, and an ant equally well. It can also animate an amoeba, a microbe. So that is the amazing thing for us to see. Isn't it amazing? Yes, it is amazing. Second part, that is to see the soul doing these amazing things. Ascharyavat paschati vadati tataiva chayanyam. Now, there are some people, like all of us today, we are making a determined attempt to sit through this session, even though it is difficult. I can understand that. And we are trying to speak about and hear about the soul. That is also amazing. Atmagyan is so rare. Gita has existed for 5,000 years. Most of our houses have a copy of Gita. How many of us open it and read it? So he says, these people are also amazing. Very few people spend time to understand and speak about the soul. The third Ascharya, what is amazing? Ascharyavat chainam anya shrunoti. People hear about it. Now it's like we are all hearing about the soul. But what is important is there are some people, even after hearing, Shrutuapi enam Vedana Chaiva Kasyat. They say that, well, I don't know. I think I was temporary, but now you have told me that I'm the soul and I'm permanent. Okay, fine. It is amazing, but I can't understand. I really don't know all these things. I don't have time. I'm a very big officer in my company. I have to look after my family. I have tremendously busy work life. Sorry, excuse me. Now, Krishna says, these are another amazing set of people. And I'm not surprised. Now, he also says, what is the easiest way out of this? The easiest process of understanding Atma Gyan is accept Bhagavad Gita as given by the Lord, read, understand, listen to it. That is the solution. Let's look at the last verse in this section, section 2. Dehi nityam avadyo ayam, dehe sarvasya bharata, tasmat sarvani bhutani, natvam sochitam arhasi. Again, the famous last words, natvam sochitam arhasi. What is the translation? The soul that dwells in the body can never be killed. Avadhya, O descendant of Bharata. Therefore, you need not lament for anything, any living being. So this is the conclusion of Atmajnana. That's the last verse. So in the purport, you will find, so this is the Gnana Yoga. First is, you have understood the identity of living entity. So this is a famous philosophical question. Who am I? So the answer is, I am not Sham, the body. I am the soul living in Sham's body. What is the understanding of soul and body? Soul is immortal. Nobody can kill it. No weapon can destroy it. And body is temporary. We are born with a death sentence. The third learning, immortality does not encourage whimsical violence. Only if justified, you must go for violence. And violence must be justified and sanctioned by the Lord and not done capriciously. That is the conclusion of this verse. This is the conclusion of Jnana section. Now we move to the last section. And I promise you that it will not take too long because it's far easier than Atmajnana. So Krishna here has explained the Atmajnana, and he's asking Arjuna to fight. He's inducing Arjuna to fight. And now he's giving you Karma Kanda. He says Sakama Karma. Here, this is far easier for us to understand. He says, performing your prescribed duty also can lead to higher planets. Only if you don't perform your prescribed duties, then you will suffer sin and infamy. Let us look at the 31st verse. This is a clear refuting the argument of loss of enjoyment. What does Krishna say? Swadharma Swadharmam api cha vikshya na vikampitum arhasi dharmayadhi yuddha shreyo anyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. So he's now coming back to kshatriya. What is Arjuna's varnashrama dharma? He is a kshatriya. So what is his swadharma? And he has to uphold it. Considering your specific duty as a kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles, and so there is no need for hesitation. What is the meaning of kshatriya? You will enjoy this. In the scriptures, it is defined as kshat means hurt, pain. Trayate means protection. So what is the duty of a kshatriya is to offer protection to innocent people. That's why they are called the administrative ruling class. Kshatriyas are trained to protect, to fight, because they have to uphold dharma. Now, in the scriptures, it is very clearly said that if you perform your kshatriya dharma and if you get killed, you have nothing to grieve and there are no sinful reactions. Now, since we are here on the subject of Swadharma, in the purport, Prabhupada explains that there are two types of duties. One is or Varnashrama, which Krishna is reminding Arjuna again and again, you are a Kshatriya, so you must fight. And second is the effort of bhakti, devotion, sadhana bhakti. Now, the 1 hour or 1.5 hours that we have spent today on a Sunday is exactly what Krishna says. Try and understand the spiritual knowledge. Then you are going to be a better person to live in this world. That's the essence of this verse. Now, as a Kshatriya, let's see this verse. What is the translation? First, let me read the verse. Very important verse. Because here is giving an answer to the fear of sinful reactions. Arjuna in chapter 1, you remember, says the compassion, loss of enjoyment, fear of sinful reactions. So Krishna is now answering that, saying that there is no fear of sinful reactions. What does he say? Yadrachaya cho apapannam swargadhwaram apavrutam sukina kshatriya partha labhanti yuddham idrusham. So again, he's using the word kshatriya. And what is the duty of kshatriya as explained in the purport? He says, you need to protect the citizens from all difficulties. There are 4 duties which are defined. You should apply violence only to uphold law and order. You must conquer inimical kings if they attack your kingdom. And you must rule the world according to religious principles. And kshatriyas are not accepted or expected to go and follow the varnashrama dharma of sannyasa or live by begging. Klaibhyam, that's what Arjuna was asking Krishna, give me permission. So the essence of here is that if you lose, if you die on the battlefield, you are a martyr. You get heaven. Swargadharam apavritam. If you win, you get an unrivaled kingdom on earth. So now why is Krishna talking about Swargadharam? Because Arjuna was saying, oh, if I kill, I will be beset with sinful reactions and I have to pay for that in my next life. Krishna is saying, my dear Arjuna, you are going to heaven. Heaven is a place where there is no distress. There is only peace. There is only joy. It's not a world of dualities. So you are going to get Swarga, and that's what is said in Vedas. So why are you afraid? Fight. 33rd verse. What is the translation? If, however, you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. So here, the 33rd verse is like, if you don't fight, it says, Ata chet tvam imam dharmyam sangramam na karishyasi tata swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapshasi. You are going to invite sin if you don't fight. Because it's like this. If you are a doctor, we have a doctor amongst us, Dr. Shashank. So if he says, I will not cure a patient, then it's a crime of negligence. And Arjuna is a man of honor. For him, dishonor is worse than death. Now, why is Krishna saying this? Hitvam papam avapshasi. A very nice story. I'll quickly go through it. So, Arjuna is a famous fighter, world renowned archer, and we all know this. And Krishna is trying to remind him that please uphold your valor. Don't uh, give up fighting, citing, unnecessarily silly reasons. So the story is to show what is Arjuna's valor. Arjuna was in Vanvas, and it was his ardent desire that I must obtain Pashupashastra, one of the worst, best fighting weapons from Lord Shiva. So he said, let me do penance. He does penance. Lord Shiva is pleased. But Lord Shiva is sometimes also in a mood for some humor with his devotee. So what Lord Shiva does is, he says, let me play with Arjuna for a minute. So Arjuna, he takes a form of an hunter, and Parvati becomes his partner as a huntress, and both come down to see Arjuna. And Arjuna opens his eyes and he sees a hunter in front of him. And at the same time, there is a wild pig. He was a demon called Mukasura, who assumes the form of a pig and comes chasing towards Arjuna to kill him. Arjuna is a warrior. He immediately picks up his bow and arrow and shoots. Just when he thought he is going to kill the pig, he realizes that the hunter from behind has killed the pig first, because it was his arrow which killed the pig and not the arrow from Arjuna. Arjuna is angry. He says, how can you call yourself a good hunter? You are killing someone from the back. But Lord Shiva says, you don't teach me Dharma Shastra. Anything is allowed in hunting. And then Arjuna says, okay, since you killed the pig before me, let me show you how strong I am. Let me uphold my valor. Come, let's go for a wrestling match. And they start wrestling. So Shiva versus Arjuna. I'm sure you all can guess who is going to win. It is Shiva. And Arjuna, by in the wrestling fight, he touches the feet of Lord Shiva. He is trying to pull his leg. That was his plan. But when he touches the feet of Shiva, it was like inadvertently. It was not that he had planned to do so. Shiva stops fighting. That's the hunter stops fighting. And he reveals himself as Shiva and Parvati. Arjuna is stunned. He says, oh, Lord Shiva, I didn't recognize you. I'm sorry. Shiva says, no, this was a pastime I wanted to have with you. And I'm very happy with your tapas, penance. Here is Pashupasastra. Why I told you this story is, Arjuna had a reputation which extended across 3 worlds. He was known to win fights with demigods. He could fight with Lord Shiva as an equal, even though he lost in the end. That's a different matter. So what is Krishna saying is that after you have earned so much of fame in your life, why are you now behaving like this, stopping fighting by giving compassion as a reason? So stop doing that, continue to fight. Infamy, next verse. Akirtim chapi bhutani. Here he says, if you leave the battlefield, you are considered a coward. That is 34th verse. 35th and 36th verse. Criticism. People will criticize you. Nindantas tava samarthyam. What will Duryodhana say? Duryodhana will not say that, oh, Arjuna is a compassionate man. He's a pure devotee. He just couldn't kill his relative, so he left the battlefield. Will they say that? No. Duryodhana will say that you are a coward, you got afraid of Bhishma and Drona, and you ran away from the battlefield. So he says they are going to criticize you, you're going to lose all your fame, a failure. So don't do that, please fight. We come to the last verse of this section. Hato va prapshasi swargam jitva va bhokshase mahim tasmad uttista kaunteya yuddhaya kruta nischaya. O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore, get up and fight with determination. You are going to benefit either way. If you die on the battlefield, heaven is assured because you are a martyr. And if you win, an unrivaled kingdom comes your way. So with this, we come to the end. So what is the translation? Even though there was no uncertainty of victory for Arjuna's side, he still had to fight. For even being killed there, he could be elevated into the heavenly planets. We have finished this section. I'll quickly summarize so that we get the essence of what we have gone through so far. The acronym for chapter 2 is Guru. What does the expansion of this acronym stand for? G, Guru. The first verses 1 to 10. Arjuna says, I am in need of guidance. Please enlighten me. I, identity. 11 to 30, which we read as Atmagyan. Who we really are, spirit, soul, and not body. T, we have two duties, twin duties. Swadharma, one is material duty, and second is spiritual duty. See Krishna. A is Atmarama. We will cover this in the next section. Further, why was Gita spoken? Why we all should read Gita? The essence is to dissipate the lamentation of the ignorant man and help in self-realization. Unless we read Gita, we will not have this self-realization. It teaches Arjuna Atmajnana, and he refutes, Krishna refutes comprehensively the argument of compassion by giving such wonderful series of arguments. C, that is compassion. That's what we said, how to remember the 5 arguments of Arjuna, says the compassion. What is the identity of living entity? That's the first lesson in Atmagyan. Identity of living entity, eternal spirit soul. Soul versus body. Soul is immortal, body is temporary. Violence must be justified in terms of Lord's sanction and not indulged in capriciously. Again, I would request you to go on mute. Let me unmute you, mute all. Okay. Immortality does not encourage whimsical violence. Why is it not moving? There are 2 more lines. E, that is loss of enjoyment. So Krishna says, if you do your Swadharma, you are aligned with dharma, righteousness. In fact, you get elevated to heaven, which is the planet or the star of only enjoyment. There is nothing to feel sad or grieve in heaven. So you're going to get heaven. So why are you lamenting? S, fear of sinful reactions. He says, fight, because if you lose, you die as a martyr on the battlefield, you get heaven. And if you win, you get an unrivaled kingdom on earth. So this is the summary of learnings. Thank you very much for your wonderful, patient listening. And if this video plays, I will try. I don't think it is playing even this time. When I play myself, it plays, but when I press here, it doesn't. I don't know why. Anyway, thank you very much. And now the floor is open for any questions. There it is.
But not the audio part. The audio is missing.
Sham, no audio.
Acha, you didn't get the audio, is it?
Nobody.
Oh.
You just share the system audio, then it will come.
How do I do that, Santosh? Optimize for video clip? Who is the expert? Arnab, you have any share sound? Optimize for video clip.
Yeah, share sound itself will work.
It should work now. Let me play it then. Can you hear?
Yes, it's coming.
Ah,
Yeah, now it
perfect.
is there.
So the entire Krishna's life is summarized in 1.5 minutes. And I must thank Jairaman for sharing this video with me. I have been trying to play this in the last class. It did not, but this class, it worked. First time without sound, second time successfully with sound. Thank you very much. And now the floor is open to any questions. And my apologies, I have exceeded the time because this is a very, very strong chapter with a lot of concepts involved. So I had to exceed my time. Apologies for that.
Shyam, Ramesh here.
Yes, Ramesh.
The size of the soul is very clearly understood now.
Right.
But where does this soul stay in the body till we are alive?
Good question. So it is somewhere in the area of the heart. Now, this is something which, even science and scientists agree that heart is the most important part of our body. So the scripture says Atma and Paramatma are situated in the area of the heart.
Okay, last question, my last question of the day at least.
Huh.
See, if we put an ant or any living being in a bottle, okay,
Right.
and cap the bottle with waterproof in a vacuum container,
Right.
will the soul get trapped there permanently till we release it?
Do that and see. Wonderful question. See, you put an ant in a bottle, close it. So as long as oxygen is there in the bottle, the ant will struggle for, it will try to breathe. And after some time, it will slowly struggle and die. So the very fact that the ant dies and the bottle is closed gives you a clear example of what is the power of the soul. No bottle, no vacuum can ever seal the soul. You try it and you will realize that, oh, well, this is what is the truth.
Hi, Shyam.
Hey, tell me.
Hi. Yeah. If anybody passes away, where will soul go?
Very good question. See, in Vedas and Vedic scriptures, it is described that there are 3 stages that happens. So the soul leaves the body, it travels to Pitruloka, and there the subtle body settles the debit and credit. And as per that, it gets the next body. To give you an example is, let's say I am a meat eater. And while dying, I had thought so much deeply in my mind that I want to eat as much meat as possible in my next life. So the Lord says, I will fulfill your desires. And in the next life, I will be born as a tiger. So I can hunt and eat as much meat as possible. So the soul has left the body, goes to Pitruloka, settles the debit credit, and as per that, whatever is the desire, it will come and... Oh, 1 second. Again, let me mute all. Yeah. So that is how the soul accepts and gets the other body according to your karma. If you do good pious credits, you'll get a good body. If you do bad pious credits, you'll get maybe you'll not even be born as a human being.
Hi, Sham. This is Radha this side. Good evening.
Good evening, Radha. By just saying your name, we are all blessed. Please tell me.
Thank you so much. Sham, my question is that generally, when we are talking about, we are almost nullifying the importance of body. We are saying soul is the supreme power and body is almost nothing. It goes, it dies and there is not much of importance, rather no importance of this body.
Okay.
Now, my question is that it is like hardware and software.
Okay.
Now, software will not be able to run if hardware is not there, or will not be able to show the results unless there is a combination of hardware and software. So to that extent, that once soul gets into the body, then only its importance is identified. Otherwise, it is invisible. You don't know what is soul, etc. It gets into something which is body. And that's how body also becomes important to find out that there is a soul.
Okay. So what is the question?
Question is that, do we nullify totally body, or body is also important part of entire gamut?
Good question. See, the purpose of Atmagyan is not to nullify or downplay the importance of a body. That's not the purpose. The purpose is you have to be aware of the inevitable fact. Like we all have this fear, the only thing which is fearing any living entity is death. We can't see death. We can't think of death. So what Krishna is telling us is that you are important as a body as long as you are alive. And Krishna has never said anywhere that, you don't eat, you go to fast, you kill this body. No, that's not the intent. The intent is once you want to be on the platform of knowledge, you want to be understanding what is philosophy. You want the question to the answer to the question, who am I? Then you have to understand this Atmagyan. So the learning is, it is not about relative importance of body and soul. Body, yes, by its nature is perishable. So you can't change this fact either. But as long as you're there in the body, you have to look after it. You have to, we do yoga, we do exercise, we eat less. Why all that? Because as long as we are in this body is our vehicle. It's our chariot. It's our car. So it's like we look after the car, we maintain the car, we have to maintain the body. So it is just because I'm a soul, it doesn't mean that I will kill the body. It is neither can I kill the body, nor can I afford to kill others unnecessarily. That's what Krishna says. Violence is justified only if it is religious principle based. Like Kauravas are following the path of Adharma. Pandavas tried their best to have a negotiated settlement, peace, but Kauravas refused. Then they came to the battlefield. Now, once you're in the battlefield, it's not about the relative importance of body or soul. Krishna says, you are here to fight. You are a Kshatriya. Do that. Period. That's how we should understand it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Sham Srikanth here.
Yes, Srikanth. Good evening to you.
Good evening. Sorry, I joined late. It was very good
problem.
session.
No problem.
Very knowledgeable. And I don't have a question, but I have one observation that people who have scientific background or they think science is the great thing, they don't believe in God, and they say, yeah, we don't understand soul and body principles, so there's no soul.
Right.
But I think even in physics, the law of physics says nothing is destroyed. It is only converted.
Very true.
And I think exactly that's what Lord Krishna is saying.
Exactly.
That is what it is, conversion. It is not. So we convert from one body to another. And what is converted, what goes in is soul. I think that is what Krishna is saying. And that is what science is accepting, probably in a different way.
Yes.
But, so that's my observation. And thank you for this session.
Thank you, Srikanth. Thank you for your kind words, and thank you for bringing a new dimension of learning in the class, because yes, science says energy can neither be created nor destroyed, and they stop at that. But if you apply that, like you did in your mind, it very clearly explains the existence of soul.
Correct.
Because the body is destroying, but the energy is not getting destroyed. This body becomes the food for other living organisms in this world. So yes, at some end, actually, if you're a pure scientist, I'm not talking about the pseudoscientists. You talk to Albert Einstein, you talk to Isaac Newton. I can show you any number of references. All these great scientists who have referred to Gita, they said, I have no argument against Gita. They say, if you are a scientist, maybe you have a doubt. But if you are a real scientist, you have no doubt whatsoever about the existence of the Lord and the existence of all the concepts that is described in Gita. He says a Big Bang theory cannot explain the construction of such a beautiful world, because in explosion, destruction happens. You can't create. But then we all believe in Big Bang theory and say that is the origin of Earth. But then science has its way of explaining things. So we should not come in their way. We should be only aware that as spiritual students, the science is also part of spiritual knowledge. So one day, the recognition and the acceptance will come in their mind that I am part of spirituality, so I should not fight spirituality.
Thanks, Shrikant, for bringing this point and wonderful explanation, Shyam, further. Just to add one line, I think it goes further that mass cannot be destroyed or energy cannot be destroyed. It can take different forms only, like solid, liquid, and gas. And the same applies also for the soul, that it goes into different bodies. So it's different form, but it does not get destroyed. Wonderful point taken up, Shrikant. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shrikant. Thank you, Radha. You're really making this session interesting by bringing in the scientific perspective also. Hello?
Hello. Yes.
Yes, please tell me.
I'm Sambhaji.
Yes, Sambhaji.
I said many times to you that I did one course from Dr. Pramod Tripathi for my diabetes healing. In one place, he was told spiritually that whenever you have a water, you have to pray water like, dear soul, mind, and body of the water, I love you. You have power to heal me. Do a great job. Thank you very much. There, I also that connects with Bhagavad Gita. And yes, the gentleman just now told about energy. I think it will be linked like that.
Of course, yes. See, you tell me, without these 5 elements, air, water, fire, ether, and sky, can we live?
No.
Each of them is like earth. What does the earth do? All our grains are grown from this mother earth.
Right.
Without food, we can't live. Without water, we cannot live. The 70% of our body is made up of water. So I think your Dr. Pramod Tripathi has brought out a brilliant point. When you take water, don't consume it as water. If you invoke the spirit of love and affection of God and thank God and say, dear water, because water is God. It gives us life. And I'm drinking you and I want you to heal. And I'm sure the power of healing happens. So it's how we apply and realize so water is water, H2O. If you are a scientific bunch of person, you say, well, nothing great. But if you are rising above science, you're getting into the platform of spirituality, then you say, I am a living being dependent on water. My survival is linked to existence of water. So I will drink this water with that love and gratitude. And then that water becomes a tirth, amrut inside you. Thank you, Sambhaji, for a good question.
Prabhuji, thank you very much. Again, a very enlightening session. And few points I mentioned in chat also. We have some discussions of software and hardware.
Right.
What I realize that the body and mind which we have got, it's just a resource or instrument to know our relation with Krishna in this lifetime.
Right.
So that is one of the part. And another one interesting part that just Sambhaji has just brought out here. So like you talk about the Panchabhuta, like Kshitijal, Pavak, Gagana, Samira. they all carry some memories. Like water also is one of the, in our Sanatan, it is told, and in South India, probably, you know, some of the substance like salt or something, means it is advised to not take from anybody's hands because it carries some memory from that person and pass it on to some other.
Very true.
So in the Hawaiian philosophy of North American side also, it was known as Ho'oponopono, where water carries the memory. And it is one of the important exercise. When you pass on the energies to water and drink it, it will generate the same vibes what you are passing on to that. So that is like, because what the way of the things he mentioned, I was part of that team. That's why I was just able to tell.
Thank you, Santosh. You have brought out a very interesting point.
Yeah, Dr. Santosh, this is correct, because Dr. Pramod Tripathi is also referring to that Ho'oponopono, but that word was not remembered by me. But he was taking a lot of note. I was not remembered it, unless when I was meet Mr. Shyam, then only I was started thinking adversely. Before that, I was just living from 1 year and listening from 1 year and living from another year. That was happening.
No, that's a great perspective. Thanks for bringing it. Yeah.
Fantastic. In fact, I'm enjoying this session because now I am listening. So please ask as many questions as you can. Thank you, Santosh. Wonderful input. And let me tell you, Santosh is, such a great person for me that he has helped me apply some things to my body to answer this question, Radha. Now, I am mildly diabetic. And in one of our conversation, I mentioned this to Santosh, and he has given me some solutions which are so useful. I'm not medicine-based. It's all about routine, discipline, and understanding what's happening in your body. And that's how you apply. So we are supposed to take care of our bodies. And I must thank Santosh that he has made me 50% less dependent on medicines and 50% more dependent on my own body functions and understanding the features.
Oh, that's great.
I'll tell you, wonderful. And Pramod Tripathi's book and Santosh's insights, I consult him regularly, and Santosh is not a doctor. And Santosh is an engineer like you and me, but deep interest in scriptures, deep interest in science, and he is a wonderful diabetologist, even though not by qualification.
We'll meet one day, Santosh, Mr. Shyam, Prabhuji, we'll meet Santosh.
Definitely.
You're welcome anytime.
So he lives in Panvel.
It is great to have Santosh ji in the group. So certainly we will utilize his knowledge, deep knowledge as well through these sessions.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And I also saw a note from Dr. Santosh that he does not have access to video. That is fine, Dr. Santosh. Are you still there? Oh, he may not be able to respond. Fine. Yeah. Srikanth, thank you for bringing Dr. Shashank. Thank him personally for joining the sessions.
Thank you. Yeah. And I'm sure he must have enjoyed. He has written in the comment box also.
Yes, I saw that.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Dr. Shashank is he a medical doctor or he's a doctorate?
No. He's a doctorate. His background is engineer like you people. And he has done PhD recently and he has become doctor.
Fantastic.
Doctorate, yeah.
Thank you very much for bringing him.
He every day he sends me notes on Gita. So I thought I must bring him to this session.
Oh my God. So we may have a lot of things to learn from him.
Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Sushant.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. That was beautiful discourse.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? I'm also conscious that, we are ahead of time, but it's a pleasure for me to listen after talking nonstop. So I am fully patient, tam titiksha swa bharata, but I'm only worried about the other commitments that you may have being a Sunday evening. And please don't think that, the questions should be asked today. You may get it after a week or after a day, after an hour. Please feel free to WhatsApp me. We can chat because learning happens only by interacting. So knowledge is not fixed. Knowledge has to flow. The more questions, the more exchange, then that becomes wisdom. I'm sure we may have a lot of questions, but then we find time is a constraint. So I don't want to have time as a constraint. You can WhatsApp me anytime. And if I have the answers, I'll come back immediately. If I have to find the answers, I will find the answers and come back to you.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Shyam.
So feel
Thank
free.
you, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I learned a new word. I didn't know Ho'oponopono.
Yes, I also didn't know that.
I looked it up on the internet. I just looked it up.
There is a one book. There is a one book on that. I will refer you because Dr. Pramod Tripathi has referred us also. When I will get it, I will let you know all.
Certainly, Sambhaji. In fact, thanks to Santosh, we have picked up a new word.
I was intrigued. How did he come to know this? This is supposed to be a Polynesian or something Far East idea. The whole concept is.
I missed it.
I'm amazed.
I missed it. What is the word we are saying?
Ho'oponopono.
Ho'oponopono.
Ho'oponopono. Okay. Okay.
Very easy. H-O-P-O-N-O-P-O-N-O.
Okay. Ho'oponopono.
Pono.
Okay.
Pono. Like a phono. H. Put a H. H-O. Pono.
Fine.
Okay.
We will research that then. Uncle, you have any questions?
No. This is like you said, this second chapter is the essence of Gita, everything in it. And see, right from childhood, we have learned like Vasam Kirnani or Nainachandanti Shastrani. We have all heard these slokas, never really putting in the context, never really trying to see where it comes from. Like Bhagavad Gita, some of the quotations I didn't. Vasam Kirnani, for example, I never knew came from.
Okay.
And then of course I've been reading last 2 years. I've been reading a few times, and it takes a while to put everything in concept. The more like you almost summarize 2/3 of the chapter. Very nice, and it's coming home to me. Various aspects and various people I heard, especially like Karpanya Dosha. And somebody gave a discourse. The most important, apparently, you're supposed to say 7 times. If you do it, if you got any problem, you repeat that 7 times, and by the time your 7th time, your problem will be solved. Things like that.
Okay.
And now that I'm doing Sanskrit, reading about Sanskrit, the words, the meaning, I can understand the exact word meaning. Things like that. That the revision was very good. If you sit yourself and do it, it will take long. You won't do it. But although it takes 2 hours, the whole thing, I don't think I would have read it myself.
And even if you read it, you don't realize the essence of it. Only when we listen to it, yes, that's the learning.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and now if you go back to reading Gita chapter 2, you will enjoy it even further.
Absolutely, you're right.
Correct.
Because Na Sochitam Arhasi is now imprinted in our memories. Anytime we have difficulty in life, we should say Na Sochitam Arhasi.
Correct. And now I'm reading, like Sanskrit, this more of a grammar.
Okay.
And they can do the Sandhi now. And there are, like Karshasi, what they form, Madhyam Purusha, Ekvachan, Bahuvachan, that also I'm practicing as I'm reading it.
Very nice, uncle.
Okay. Thank you. Somebody has raised a hand.
Okay.